Today's podcast is on what is health? What does that mean? What does that mean to you to be healthy? What does that mean to most people? And it was inspired by me looking up somebody that had a good track record for being really strong. I think he was in the running for Mr. Olympia. I'm not trying to knock the guy at all, but his name's Mike Menser. You can look him up. He was a bodybuilder back in the day. And he died early. I'm sure you look at how big he was. He is like the picture of health, muscular, lean, but he was taking a lot of anabolic steroids, I'm sure, because all of those guys they're huge. So many people look up to them. They're not healthy internally though. It messes your heart up really bad when you do anabolic steroids. Your heart is a muscle. And what happens is people inject all this testosterone and other things into themselves or take it in pill form, however you get it into your body. And the heart, since the muscle, grows, right? And so it only has so much space inside. So if it grows and it grows inward, you're really reducing the heart chambers and how much blood volume they can pump. And then you're adding all this muscle onto it, creating this real big need to pump blood efficiently, right? It stresses your heart out. It's not good for your heart. Your heart does not want that. Your body knows how much testosterone to make, and it makes the right amount as long as you're doing all the things you're supposed to do. So I just see this happen too much where so many people look up to these guys, and these guys would never tell you that they're taking stuff in the background. They would never admit how many anabolic steroids they're taking, how much it's costing them each month. The Liver King, he just got caught not too long ago. Someone said he was spending like 10 grand a month on anabolic steroids. These guys, they're the picture of what you think healthy would be. Again, lean, strong. They look like man. They're like guys want to be like these guys. But the way they get there is through taking anabolic steroids, getting temporary, very temporary gains. And if you continue it, it will kill you early. It does it all the time. Anabolic steroids cause heart problems. That's it. So that being said, and unless you're cool with that, if you're like, hey, I don't want to live past 50 anyways, I'm just going to load myself up. I'm going to take all kinds of extra testosterone. I'm not going to worry about it. And I'm going to die super swole and lean. Good for you. Perfect. Do that. It never drives me nuts. I don't care if anybody does anabolic steroids. That never really irks me too much. It's when people do it and don't admit it. Don't admit they've tried it. Don't admit that they're doing it on a regular basis, whatever it is. And then they try and sell people. A lot of people don't realize how many other people are doing it. And then they sell workout programs. They promise you the world. You're going to get super buff on this. I've seen guys that are super, super swole, clearly taking anabolic steroids. And then they are selling a program and their program is like a HIIT routine. That guy doesn't look like that from a HIIT routine. Promise you. If you believe it, buy his program and try it. But you won't get his results. So what is health then? What does that mean? Health, to me, is incredibly simple. It's incredibly simple. You do the basic things your body needs. You will be healthy. Your body wants some sunlight. You give it that. So your vitamin D is not trashed, right? Your body, every muscle wants to move. So it doesn't have to be strenuous. That's another thing that health is not. It's not really strenuous all the time. You can just work each muscle a little bit each day or nearly every day. Your body will be happy with that. In my program, we do the easiest type of lifting, and it's actually more effective for building strength. I've never benched so much working out the easiest way possible because your body doesn't want to be really beat up. A lot of people, they think health is straining, struggling, pushing really hard. So they go to the gym to get healthy again, or at least just to lose weight and look healthy. And they do it in the most unhealthy way possible. They're mad at themselves because they took too much time off. And so they just push really hard. And they do cardio for 3 hours straight, and then they can't walk or move for 2 weeks. That's not healthy at all. Being healthy is lifting weights, getting some sunlight. It doesn't have to be strenuous again. Some light cardio on a regular basis. It could even be walking. Walking is phenomenal for you. Checking your diet, making sure you're not overeating, but definitely enjoying your meals because health should be enjoyable. If your body is healthy, you can tell because you'll be in a good mood. So it's that simple. Getting a good night's sleep, incredibly good for you. People, unless they've read Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, people have no idea how game changing a good night's sleep every night is for a person. And then making sure your breathing pattern is optimal. That's another thing when you could read Oxygen Advantage by Patrick Kewen. Phenomenal book. But all of these things should be enjoyable. You don't have to push too hard. I used to hike this hike called Mount Woodson, and I just did it so many times that one day I just found myself jogging. I would walk it, and then I just found myself jogging parts of it, and then I found myself jogging the whole thing. One day I was running parts of it. One day I was just trotting up the 3.5 miles, a little more than that, all the way uphill and trotting back down an hour and a half, 7 miles total, and just jog the whole thing. And it just wasn't that hard. And that feels good. I'm sure taking steroids and looking swole, it feels good as well. Out benching all your friends because of all the stuff you're taking that you're not telling them about, that feels good. Jogging up a mountain or a large hill, whatever you want to call it, and not feeling winded feels really good. All of your working out, all of your endeavors can be easy. They can be you just doing a little bit more than you did yesterday, just walking a little further or walking a path. And then the next day you just happen to walk a little faster, but you never have to push yourself. When your body's ready, it'll tell you, because you'll just be jogging one day. You just find yourself lifting more, running further. And so it never has to be strenuous, and it doesn't need to hurt. Health isn't about hurting your body. It's not about no pain, no gain. Screw no pain, no gain. Screw that stuff. It's so overrated. And I don't know if the fitness industry is just trying to push this stuff on people so that they fail constantly and it hurts. And then they just look up to other people like, maybe I'm just not as great as them, or I just don't work as hard as them. And then they offer you a supplement and then you take it. Maybe that's the reason behind it. I don't know. But health is not a struggle. Not at all. It's just something you should be curious about. It's something you should be curious about. Be curious about, is my diet optimal? And just read up on it and explore with different dietary programs. I'm not a big keto guy, but hey, you want to try it, try it. I think it's good to be exploring. Okay, don't really try keto. I think it's actually really bad for you. If you want to, go for it. The main thing is to be curious and to try something. I tried it and didn't like it. I found that I was very tired, very fatigued, and I didn't like it. I'm sure there are some keto people out there that are like, no, you just were on it long enough. I know. I've seen all the videos. I've read studies on it. I get it. That could be the case. But to be curious is a huge part of your health. Just curious about your breathing pattern, curious about optimal sleep, curious about your diet, curious about weightlifting programs, curious about cardio, and add other stuff. Your curiosity might take you into the realm of yoga. A lot of people don't know this, but yoga is a whole way of life. We say we're going to yoga class. That would be called yoga asanas. Means positions. So the yogic positions, different positions you get into, and they have different effects on your body. For a long time, it was viewed as crazy until recently studied. Now we find out that if you sit confidently, like shoulders back, chin up a little bit, big posture, sit confidently, and the people have studied that. It was a Harvard study that was done. Testosterone actually goes up in about 2 minutes by 20%, and cortisol drops, the stress hormone drops. Similarly, if you sit in a closed off position, like you're really scared or worried, cortisol, the stress hormone, goes up, testosterone drops. So just keep being curious about that stuff. Even before the studies came out, if you just tried yoga asanas, tried doing the positions for flexibility, mobility, all that stuff, but those positions too, again, can change your biology as well, just based on the way you sit. But being curious about that, the study of grounding, you can look up a grounding YouTube video and try to watch the documentary the guy did on fixing his problems by literally grounding means just putting your feet on the ground, like on the actual earth, without having asphalt or any kind of anything in between you. He claims that your body is, I forget how he says it, but it's kind of like a battery. It needs to be charged. The earth is, I forget if the earth is negative or positively charged, and the body is the opposite. And so when they connect, there are certain things that happen that circulate, whatever. He swears that it fixes health problems, and he shows how he did it. And that's another thing just to look into, read about, and be curious about, and try it out. And again, be curious about your diet, be curious about even just meditation. That comes back to different postures you sit in the yogic practices. And now science has finally caught up couple thousand years late, but they finally caught up and found that, yeah, these different positions you sit in actually have a physiological effect on the human body, which is incredibly interesting to me, which is incredibly interesting. Yeah, just being curious about life. I sometimes I'll talk about different things I'm curious about just because I like to read a lot and totally off subject, but just touching on curiosity. If any of you don't know how Einstein, one of the reasons why he got so famous was because he was trying to argue that light can actually bend and that gravity pulls light inward, can actually change the course of a whatever you want to call it, particle of light, whatever you call that, the light beam coming through. And so to view that though, because at nighttime the stars are always in a certain position, they're a certain distance away from each other. To view that, they had to wait for an eclipse to happen, and then the sky goes dark, and then really quick get pictures of where the stars are. And the first time they tried to do this experiment, because if the light on these stars is coming past the sun, the sun gravitational force will bend the light. And so they'll appear temporarily closer in together, closer to the sun, because the gravity from the sun is bending the light as it's coming from these different stars, billions of years away, billions of light years away, and it's bending it inward. So the stars will appear to have moved temporarily in the sky closer together. And the first time they tried to capture this eclipse and capture the star to begin where they missed it, they had to wait all this time for Einstein to prove his theory. And then the eclipse is going to happen again. All these people in different areas, a big deal. All these scientists were out like, no, we're all going to catch it. And they saw that, yes, in fact, the stars appeared closer when the eclipse hit and light bent inwards, thus proving people still say that light doesn't bend, thus proving it actually does. And not everybody knows that. But I'll say this to friends of mine, to coworkers, and they look at me with this glazed over. I'm like, isn't that exciting? And they're like, I love this stuff. I mean, I just get curious about life in general. I get curious about the effect yoga has on the body. I get curious about grounding and I'll read about it. I get curious about different types of cardio and I experiment on myself constantly. Nothing crazy, but constantly running new experiments. I'm currently running one with cardio on myself that I'm not really handing out quite yet. I want to make sure it works and then I'll hand it out. But just being curious about life. That's what health is about. It's interesting. It boosts your mood. That's healthy too. Just sitting in a good mood. That's also been studied. Just sitting there in a good mood and watching biological markers, DNA markers switch on that tell your cells to thrive when you're in a good mood versus when you're in a bad mood. Your body starts telling itself to kill itself. Shut down, break down. Not good for you. I think I talked about that last time on the podcast. Joe Dispenza, Coming Supernatural, his book. It's all in there. But just be curious about life. Take care of the simple things. Don't pay attention to some of those huge guys and what they say. If your goal is health, longevity, you don't have to take advice from the guys that are saying you need to push harder, you need to work harder, and would never admit that they're taking gratuitous amounts of anabolic steroids in the background. It's just not good for you. It's not healthy. So be curious about health. Till next time. See you guys later.